We're good to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey folks, Randy here with Dulin Cut Trim. So I am here with my friend from back in high school, but also is taking Instagram by storm, which is Nick Carlson from Mulch Mate, or maybe more specifically Dawson Manufacturing, home of the Mulch Mate.
That's right.
How you doing, man?
Good, bud. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Good. Mm-hmm.
Because I don't actually know the answer to this one. Is how did you get started in the lawn and landscape business?
Well, it was kind of, I kind of fell into it. So I I still do, live on about 2.5 acres of grass, and my dad had this like piece of junk, MTD, ride on tractor. It sat all cattywampus, and it was garbage. But we had it. I think he paid like $200 for it when we got it. I was working at Maggie Moo's Ice Cream in Annapolis. I was the very first employee, like first ever, right? And I think I worked there for the summer, and school was not my thing. Like, I struggled really bad in school. And so when school came around, I said, well, I think it's time for me to focus on school. I can't handle this. I can't do both. Let me go back to doing that. I was 14 at the time. Next summer rolls around. Well, okay, I need to get a job. I need to make some money. My dad's like, hey, I'm not paying for everything here. You need to, get your butt moving here. So I was like, well, what about taking the tractor and cutting grass like any other 15-year-old kid would do? And he goes, well, let's get you a logo design, a little flyer, 8.5 by 11, print it on an inkjet, and pass around the neighborhood. So that's what we did. And literally, I folded it. It said "Hi Neighbor" on it. So I kind of tricked people into open it, like, "Hey, I'm your neighbor." But I really wasn't. It was just something to get somebody to open it. So I had all these little tricks on how to get people to open up this flyer. And I think it took 2 months before any customer called me. And my very first customer, I won't say his last name, but I'll say his first name, and his name was Ed. And the day I sold my company eventually, I still had that customer. I had my first customer from day one to the final day when I signed the papers.
No kidding.
Yeah, so that's a kind of really cool story we can get into later. But we started cutting grass. I picked up probably 10, 11, 12 decent-sized customers and started realizing, okay, I can make some money. At the same time, I was restoring this old Mustang, and I needed like $900 of parts to restore this car. I told my dad, I'm like, how am I going to make this money? He goes, just keep your head down, keep working. It will come. By the time it was time for me to buy those parts, I had $3,000. And I'm going, what the heck? Like, this is amazing. Like, how did I make this?
And how old are you?
15.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, I can't even believe myself. I'm like, how am I making all this money? Like, it was like, okay, just keep working, just keep going. It will come. And then all of a sudden, some lady asked me, she goes, hey, I need some mulching done. And it was like 5 yards of black mulch. I know the house. I know how much it was. I remember, I think I charged like $600 for it. Way undercharged. Had no clue what I was doing. Recruited somebody from our school. Said, hey, dude, I need a hand. Would you come out? I paid him in a hamburger. A 1 pound Fuddruckers hamburger is how I paid him on the first mulch job. And so from there, it snowballed into more maintenance and and then it just kind of grew and grew and grew. At the same time, I was racing stock cars, and the money from the business was paying for that, and then so on and so forth.
So that was when you were 15, and I know eventually you sold the business. How big did the business end up getting?
Over $1.5 million a year is what we made.
And how many guys did you have? And
if you averaged out right around the 16, 17 range, it would spike in the spring, of course. It would go up to 24 or 5. And then, summer months, we'd come off of some of those workers. And then, of course, in the winter, there wouldn't be a whole lot to do January, unless it was snowing, of course, which we recruited you for a few times. But, we kind of floated right around that 17 guy.
Okay.
Hardscape, irrigation. I dipped my toe in like fencing and decking, and kind of was like, I think we need to, focus on what you're good at. And so I backed off a lot of the contractor stuff.
So how long did you end up owning that business for?
17 years, 16 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so while you were owning that business, you had a moment, which has kind of led you to where you are now. Can you tell us about that?
I'm assuming you're talking about Mulch Mate. Or
no, I was talking about when you... Yes, that's what I'm talking
Funny guy. So I've had a lot of moments, apparently. So I was at Park Tavern in Sonora Park, and it was January. I had just gone through the commercial bidding process on a bunch of properties, and out of I think we bid on 60. I think I got 18 or 19 properties, and we had thousands of yards of mulch to put down. It was ridiculous. I'm going, how in the world am I going to put all this mulch down? I don't want to hire 80 people. That's just a nightmare. And so I had known about mulch blowers. I knew about this thing called a mulch mule. It's like a trailer. And I went out and rented them and used them over the years, and I didn't like them. And the things that I didn't like about the blower was when they're very, very finicky. They only blew, in my opinion, they only blew mulch. And every 1,000 to 2,000 hours, they'd wear out, and you'd spend 20 grand trying to fix them. And I went, man, that's, to me, with my mechanical background, I thought there's got to be a better way. And the reason I didn't like the mulch mule, the trailer version, was you had to stop and set up shop in one location because you had this 25-foot long trailer, you had this 20-foot long truck that doesn't fit in most spots, and we had to set up shop. And then my guys' wheelbarrow runs got longer, which is a big problem for me. And I thought, okay, this is ridiculous. What can we do about this? And so my aha moment was, why don't we take a salt spreader you put on the back of a dump truck and take the spinner off of it and put your wheelbarrow underneath that opening at this point and dump the truck right into that hopper. And that would make it, the mulch go in and go out and in the hole, and voila, perfect. Ultimately failed, but that is what led us to today.
And so you started working on that, and I remember actually a couple months after you guys started working on it in earnest, and I don't remember why I was at your house. I was probably getting something of mine fixed. I don't remember. But I was at your house, and you started telling me about this idea you had for sucking mulch off of a truck into a wheelbarrow. And I remember you telling me about it and even showing me some stuff you had going on in your garage. I don't want to spoil it, but... Well,
go ahead, have at it.
Mulch Mate pretty much got built in his garage.
And my basement.
And his basement. It got designed in his basement, built in the garage.
Yeah.
And I remember you telling me about it and kind of giving me the idea, and I was like, Harbor Freight sells a debris unloader for $50, right?
Yep, it's true. It's true.
And Nick was like, yeah, but mine's better. No. All right, dude.
He was a doubter at first.
It's like, all right, well, good luck, buddy. And so you kept working on it. So I'm curious if you could kind of tell us a little bit about that process.
So it basically starts off with each individual system and getting that particular system right. So it's strong enough to hold up to what you can throw at it. We start with the conveyor. Conveyors they seem simple, but they are this mythical unicorn that is so hard to get right. And we built the very first conveyor. I had it all welded by a friend, and I went and got metal and cut it myself, and it was a disaster. But I was just trying to prove the concept of, okay, if I take a conveyor belt that's roughly 7 foot long or as wide as your truck, if I put a bunch of mulch on it, can it just push the mulch off? And I have video of that test. It literally on the asphalt pad behind my shop, loading with mulch that we had from landscaping, pitchforked it on and just put power to it and watched it run off. It's like, okay, there, that's done. We know that can be done. Okay, now how are we going to get the mulch from the truck to the conveyor? And initially, it was the whole dumping of the truck was going to run the mulch into this cabinet, and the cabinet was going to pivot and stay level as the truck went up. And I had all that figured out. Had a huge oops moment about 4 months in. The truck, when it lifts, the machine ended up on the ground. And so that doesn't work across the board universally. And so when you lifted it, you couldn't control the mulch, and B, the machine's on the ground, so it does you no good. So once we kind of were like, okay, that's not going to work, I already had the tarping system we have today run in the back of my mind. I had some drawings of it, but it was just on paper is all it was. And so we ultimately said, okay, how are we going to get this tarp to pull in? And so we went to work on this gearing system that I knew of a planetary, and I knew that you could take high speed and turn it into low speed, high torque. And so we just made a system, put it on the truck, broke it. Built it bigger, broke it again. Put it bigger, broke it again. Until we ultimately found what we have today.
It's funny. I was looking through some of the old videos I have on my channel, and I came across one where you're actually welding the deck on my mower. There was some rusted out spots, and you welded some. And in that video, in the background, you can actually see Mulch Mate parts all over the place. Like the tarp, the roller that the tarp rolls up in, you can see that on there. You can see some of the metal cutouts that you did. And the thing that also I thought was really interesting and I wanted to convey is that these aren't, like the parts that are on the Mulch Mate, even in the prototype phase, It's not like you were running to Home Depot to get them. I actually, it was not on purpose. If I'd known what you were going to do, I never would have come. But I actually went with you to this place. It doesn't exist anymore, I don't think, called the Foundry.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like a maker space where you could, they had all the tools you could possibly want. You could just use them for a fee. And I went with Nick, and maybe I'll put something in here where you can kind of see what I'm talking about, where Nick took, I don't even know if this is even a part of the Mulch Mate now, but you basically took a big chunk cylinder that was about this thick, and you turned it into, I don't know what it was. But do you know what I'm talking about?
We still use it on the machine today.
You do?
Yes.
Okay.
But it looks a lot prettier because I don't do it.